Welcome, everybody, to tonight's matches in the playoffs for the ESA Cup Season 10. My name is Highbear. I'm here with my co-caster, McCready. And McCready, what a game we have for these fine folks tonight.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. Thank you for that wonderful intro. Today we do have Ghost Army going up against CrownZero. Now, these are two teams that have faced up against each other before. They've got a little bit of history with themselves, and that does go in favor of Ghost Army a little bit more than it does for CrownZero. But you got to feel for Ghost Army because this is actually going to be their last season playing together because they're going to be transitioning to PC, and we wish them the best. But for those players, they're looking to make sure that they don't get knocked down to that lower bracket. They're looking to win out this first game of the playoffs so far. Hi, Bet, we've got a best of three coming up for yourself, and let's take a look at that bracket.
The big thing to note in terms of this bracket, right, that we're looking at the playoff bracket here, but the teams that we're playing, those top two, Ghost Army and CrownZero, you see on the top left.
Yep.
CrownZero was the last team to squeeze in after the Swiss stage. Ghost Army actually had the first seed. So going off of those previous matches, how they've been looking even just this season, it's kind of shaping up like there's an expectation as to which team might be more likely to take this.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, even against these two teams together, CrownZero and Ghost Army, last time they played together, it was a 2-0 in favor of Ghost Army. Very confident, very strong. Ghost Army, they've only played 3 matches in that elimination to qualify for the playoffs because they've won all 3. CrownZero, they played a lot more, so they're going to be feeling that fatigue a little bit more and hopefully looking to kind of stave that off and make sure that they don't join Team Sync and do not join Nexus down in that lower bracket. They're going to have a lot to ask for. They're in that bottom seed position. That means it's going to be the toughest fight for them. Even if they take out Ghost Army, they're only going to have an uphill climb getting to that final.
Yeah. Looking tough for CrownZero. Ghost Army definitely the favorites going into this match. But we'll head to our predictions. We'll see what the staff of our ESA Cup. Oh my goodness, isn't it? Is it ever dominant? Sorry, I got caught up. I was looking at it, and all I see are little men in suits and hats.
There we go. Don't worry. Oregon there going for the CrownZero vote. You know, got to get that one underdog story in there so that somebody can be proven right when eventually we see CrownZero take a 3-0 victory or a 2-0 victory in this case. But look at that. Overwhelming support for Ghost Army. And when you look at the stats, it makes sense. 5, I believe that's, if I take a look here, 3-0 in the matches that they played so far. And like you say, top seed going into this. It looks strong on paper. The community is definitely backing Ghost Army. I think Oregon, I like what they do because they get that in there. That'll be a massive upset if CrownZero take that.
Ogon's just being a contrarian, I'm sure. It's like you say, it really is. Everything is pointing in the direction of this going the way of Ghost Army. We'll get into our map bans here. We see Bank, Clubhouse, Lair, Nighthaven taken off. A lot of fan favorites off the board immediately. Yeah. Start things off on Consulate. Ooh, interesting map to pick.
Yeah, and the reason Ghost Army picked it, I think it lends away into their mentality a little bit. I mean, you look at the maps that have been taken off. They've taken off Bank, CrownZero take away Clubhouse. Those are 2 maps that you do consider to be some of the more simpler ones in terms of strategy. They're a lot more figured out, and teams are a lot more used to them. But Consulate is a map where Ghost Army, if you're feeling confident on there as a team, you will do well. You will be able to just get a lot of momentum going early out from the gates and keep rolling with that. That might be why we're seeing Ghost Army pick that up. They're confident. They've got those wins in the bag so far. They feel like they can win this quite comfortably. Cafe coming out from CrownZero makes a bit more sense because, well, you know, they need to make sure they win it. They're going to go to what they know works, and Cafe might just be that map. But Chalet Hyber, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
I'm a big fan of Chalet, and I think most of the community is too. So I'm not too shocked to see that come out as the decider because your decider maps tend to be maps that both teams are relatively comfortable on. And with Chalet being such a mainstay map, teams tend to be pretty comfortable on it no matter who they are, whether or not they're the most practiced on it. You kind of know what to do, even just from playing ranked games, from being at it in your quick matches, whatever. So if we get there, we'll see it. And I imagine that one will be pretty close, but got a few maps to get through first. Starting things off with Ghost Army's map pick, which I'm sure they'll be starting on the attack. Consulate.
Yeah, they're going to be doing exactly that. CrownZero will take away the Blackbeard, and in a meta like this, it just makes so much sense. That shield's taken away, that side control. We all know shields have been a big, big problem for a defending side that can't counter them properly. And when you see that Blackbeard walking around with a gun and 2 nades in the pocket, the ban just makes so much sense, especially with some of the choke points on Concert. Not surprising. Going to see Sense being taken out as well by Ghost Army, and I feel like that's there to kind of shut down any aggressive rushes, any fast takes that really rely on Sense shutting down lines of sight.
Not a common ban by any means, but one that has a lot of impact if you've done your homework. And Ghost Army, what I imagine has happened here is they've been able to watch CrownZero battle through that Swiss stage, see what's going on in terms of how effective they've been, what their attacks have looked like, and come up with some counters for this map. The Sense ban, it's not a normal ban. So I really have to imagine that they've seen something and they want to directly counter an idea that CrownZero tends to play.
Yeah, and like you say, they've had time to look at it. They've had time to think about what CrownZero like to do, how they like to approach things. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to have used that time well. Clash and Boredom going to round things out in the ban phase there. And the Clash one makes a lot of sense for the same reasons a Blackbeard does. It's the last thing you want to go up against in the last minute of a round as an attacker is see that Clash shield. And the Warden, it does make sense, but I feel like it's an operator that maybe you might get a little bit more utility taken out a Cade or taken out a Mirror or even a Fenrir, because leaving that Mirror on the board leaves a lot of angles that can be really controlled by a defensive setup. Now, CrownZero, let's talk about where they're going, because they're not going to that top floor. They're not going to that basement. They're going for server tellers first. And a lot of teams won't even touch this site with a barge pole, let alone pick it as their first site to go to. Why do you think that might be?
A barge pole, did you say?
A barge pole? Yeah, you know what I mean.
I don't think I've ever seen a barge in person, but I imagine it's something very long, big pointy stick that you use to avoid getting too close to those barges. And yeah, teams not loving this split site. It is typically quite difficult to defend, though with the right lineup, it can be done. Though notably, CrownZero not bringing along the classic operators you might expect for this site, starting with an aggressive peek though. 1-for-1, QLF and Kazuto, both picking up a piece, picking up 1 kill apiece. And that early aggression out of CrownZero, I wonder if that's indicative of their plan for this round.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the setup lines aside. They have these operators with shotguns that can come in close. The Vigil, the Pulse, it's all feeding information and a very kind of confrontational play style. The setup they've got as well is spread out. They've got lines of sight that they can use, and they've still got somebody that could just rotate very easily, like you see Dipsy going upstairs now. Ghost Army, they've lost that Tokabi, so that's information for the late game taken away. That's the ability to hack the cameras. Nothing has been done so far on the side of Ghost Army aside from droning, and they've already lost one of those key intel operators that they've got on the board. Droning through, realizing that garage is still going to be reinforced out. They're going to have to deal with it somehow, or they might just try and avoid it. How are they going to deal with this? We don't know. One thing we know for certain, though, is Dipsy's getting that information. A fully reinforced wall means that they can safely get that ping, let them know their team know that somebody is sat there, and maybe allow these players to rotate around. Time ticket down. Ghost Army, they're still just thinking about how they want to execute this, but they need to deal with ISIPs.
Quite the minimal take out of Ghost Army so far. They've not really worked a ton of map control, and everything they've taken has been exclusively on the main floor, and that might prove to be a bit problematic for them as impacts explode, opening up the floorboards and the ceiling above them, threatening the positions of these players as they open up the site wall.
Yeah, now a minute 10, 15 left on the clock. They're going to have to start executing. And with the Vigil upstairs, while Dipsy does take some damage, that Vigil's going to be waiting to execute late into the round and really put pressure on. Pulse doesn't even have a C4 here. Pulse is playing purely for the information game. And with 1 minute left, as we start to look at this wall getting opened up into tellers, the plant possibly going down, this could be huge. A pre-placed C4 on the floor already. We're going to see Yashiro start to crouch walk down, 50 seconds down, going down that spiral. Fleeks is going to get taken down by QLF, finding a second kill, but the plant's being spotted by Dipsy. The C4 goes off. It doesn't find its mark, though, and it is going to stop the plant. That's all they needed to do. The push player pushes through. Yashiro swings in, gets nicked, and now Dipsy and Skips have to stop this plant going down.
Oh, a little bit of a whiff as Skips tries to take the fight onto site. He's eventually dropped. The time's getting low, but still more than enough. It all falls on Dipsy. He's going to swing up. Can't deny the plant, but will be denied first. QLF takes him down as he makes his way up the Visa stairs. And that'll be round 1, heading the way of the attack.
Very nicely played from them. Ghost Army realizing that that wasn't necessarily the side they were expecting to go to, but it was the side that they were comfortable with. They got that verticality dealt with. They had a player lurking down to strike when that Pulse and Cade were both distracted. And as soon as that was done, they had the players in place to kind of watch that flank go down, just make sure that they weren't going to get flanked from those stairs. Realistically, that was well played from Ghost Army. I was a little worried once the time started running down and they were already had lost one of their attackers, but they've kind of put my fears to rest at this point. Going to go to a little bit more of a normal site on that top floor now, aren't we?
That split site, as you mentioned, is not super common. And you were talking a bit about the time getting low, about Ghost Army feeling like they were bleeding out the clock. I really saw what they were doing, and it looked like to me their setup was really good. And when I see teams that have that strong setup, I'm a little bit less worried about the time. Especially, I didn't catch who it was on the Brava, but whoever it was who made their way down spiral stairs, finding that gap to be able to walk right into the thick of the defense as they were staring up at the verticality. I mean, it's a beautiful little microplay inside that round, and Ghost Army are able to capitalize on this tiny gap in CrownZero's defense. And if this is indicative of how Ghost Army play throughout the day, I really think we'll see them having a lot of success on this attack.
Again, it really speaks to how these teams are prepared and how they understand the strats that they've got. If they can look at sides like that with such little time and just walk through a defensive lineup at the most impactful moment, that really is something that speaks volumes to ourselves as casters. Now, though, going on to that top floor, we're going to have to see Ghost Army recreate some of that magic. We can see the CrownZero, they're just bringing a similar kind of lineup. Got that mirror and the Goyo on the board, though, this time, just to try and waste a bit more time, make it a lot more difficult for these attackers to take these gunfights. You can see over towards admin, they've got 3 players, 1 on the Visa stairs, 2 in admin. They're going to get droned out, and Fleeks' job is just to waste that time, force his drones to come through, deny them for the late round. And yes, an explosive will go off, but it doesn't find its mark, doesn't find a kill. QLF takes a lot of damage here, isn't going to be able to find Fleeks as they rotate away. And that is a kill that they might really regret not being able to pick up. Fleeks escaping full HP.
Manages to get out. I think it was a shotgun blast, actually, that did all that damage to QLF, but he does escape with his life.
Oh.
Here comes a C4, though, for the opener. Yoshiro taken down. Instantly working to deny this entry over towards admin side, and it looks like Ghost Army are having to rethink their approach here. They have finally managed to get some boots on the ground inside of admin, but look at this, a mirror window in pocket, and this just makes the attack so much harder. Great adaptation out of CrownZero, recognizing where the attack was coming from. Oh, QLF just manages to sneak his way into Projector and catch a player off guard. That actually gets rid of the player who was on that mirror window. But here comes the aggression. Kazuto wanting to aggress, wanting to push forward onto Spiral, knowing there's someone isolated, but not finding the fight, especially not as the Yings come through. The Candela's blinding the player over towards Long Desk, and he's forced to give. A little bit of space secured now for the attack, and they start to push up off the back of it. But oh, they're being peeked from all angles. Look at the HP on the side of Ghost Army. Surviving though so far and finding themselves the advantage, even though every single one of them is about 1 bullet's worth of HP left from standing, from being taken down.
Exactly, and now these Goyo canisters are getting so much more dangerous for the attackers of Ghost Army. Only Sizanu has that HP to make it work. It's going to be Atox, so he finds Kazuto. And now it's down to Sips and Nikit. Lassie and Candela will go out. Sips will find the first kill onto QLF. And now it's down to a 3 versus 2. 20 seconds ticking down. Ghost Army could do it with little time before. They need to do it again. The plant starts. No Goyo canisters to pop. No C4s. Only 1 impact, but they don't know. Holding the angle. Atox gets that kill at their Sips. And now it's down to Nikit in the 1 versus 3. Looks towards the Bravo and Long Desk. Can't land those shots just yet. And the damage will come through. 1 little scratch is all they need, but they can't land that down. And 30 seconds will tick by.
Slowly, carefully, Nikki trying to find himself the first fight, but he won't find anything other than a shotgun blast to the face, taken down as he pushes out Long Desk.
Oh, those Brava drones. I mean, that Brava drone over towards Spiral, that was it for me. That was such a key position we saw in that round. That the Goyo, they tried to impact it, Kazuto, and swing out top Spiral, but the Brava had stolen the Malusi Banshee. And when that happened, it slowed them down. It gave the information the swing was coming, and Kazuto didn't have the speed to really take that gunfight, so they backed off. They let that player stay alive. And then that player stayed in until the end of the round. Charlie was still there. And then even at the end of that round, when they're going for that swing in a 1 versus 3, the little Banshee just popped for the split second, and it gave that audio cue. and gave such a clean round for Ghost Army. But that was so much closer. CrownZero, they did a really good job at just getting the HP down, just not finishing things up. So I'm not surprised they want to go back to this side.
I could not believe how low everybody on Ghost Army was. I mean, seriously, like, the difference between that just being a CrownZero round without it even being close and what we just witnessed is 3 players picking 3 speeds instead of 2 armors. Like, yeah, it's so minimal. Everyone was on about 5 HP apart from Senzo. And I mean, game of inches, man. As well. Sometimes that is how it is, and sometimes the shots don't quite fall in your favor. Still, great attack from Ghost Army, and notably QLF managing to bring that body balance back, sneaking in through Projector on the IQ. That's the biggest highlight for me in that round.
And that's twice we've seen these 2 players from the side of Ghost Army being able to just kind of walk in and get just an unsuspecting pick like that. And it's something CrownZero needs to start realizing they need to close ranks a little bit, or at least have something to stop Ghost Army from just walking in. They can't allow that to become a norm rather than an exception, because if they do, they know that Ghost Army are going to try and find a cheeky kill at some point. And you got to think the HP at the end of that last round, another player could have won that game. If they had 1 more in their pocket, that could have been a one round in their favor. Now, though, they are going to have to try and defend it again, see if they can make some adaptations, maybe keep an eye towards Projector, maybe stop this Bravo from getting so much utility, though it doesn't seem like that's the case. As you can see already, it's starting as Banshee's taken away. Ghost Army, they're looking to get a perfect 3 rounds.
Such good value out of that Bravo drone. We saw it last round. We're seeing it again here. Charlie making the work, making it happen, getting rid of all the Banshees at every entry, hacking cameras, doing everything they need him to. And Ghost Army's already secured control of admin once again. Here come the Candelas to blind out the long desk player, forcing him back. Opts not to leave just quite yet, and he isn't being pushed, so we'll be able to persist even just for a moment longer. But here comes the swing from top spiral, and there's the kill. Oh. Charlie taking him down. Excellent little microplay between the 2 teammates. No traded. Adox dropped as well.
Yes, Kazuto finding that pick. Now, the Candelas coming into this long desk is so important because it's such close range, as we see Nickit and Sinsnu each getting a kill. The C4 will go out. It's not able to find another kill, but Fleeks will. The crossfire's really coming into play here. 50 seconds left. No more Candelas to go, so we'll talk about that later. Not now, because with 50 seconds ticking down, that case is still on the ground, and CrownZero are looking good. They just need to hold these angles, make sure they play together, and don't let Ghost Army do something like that. Nickit with the swing finds Yashiro. It's all down to QLF now with the gridlock, with the full HP to try and get this round back in the bag. 30 seconds ticking down. They're not a very quiet operator, and they know that this Vector's going to look at swinging as soon as they take another gunfight. It's a very, very big ask here. The 25 seconds ticking down. Can it really be done?
You try. QLF looking for something, anything, but so far CrownZero realizing that they don't need to give him a thing. Prone on the ground and the crossfire. Fleeks will be the one to pick it up, but at that point it could have been anyone. Much better defense here out of CrownZero, understanding that once they have that advantage, all they got to do is hold the crosses. They do, and lock it down.
Yeah, that was a much better round from them as well. Like we said, they kind of locked in and they realized that they might get flanked. They might have Ghost Army just trying to walk in somewhere just to catch them off guard. And I feel like that wasn't something Ghost Army really attempted. So CrownZero were able to lock it a little bit tighter. The crossfires were there. The refrags were there as well. I wanted to talk about the Candelas. They're so useful in such short confined spaces. They're forcing CrownZero to pull back, and Ghost Army are getting a pick. Now, in that round, they were able to find refrags. They were able to find answers and retake that round that they lost once they got that refrag. So they were able to play off of those Candelas a lot better than they did previously. Going on to this tertiary bomb site, Piano and Exhibition, hopefully they'll be able to keep some of that as well. A lot of this, you're expecting to see a top floor hold, and the Goyo and Mirror makes a lot of sense to bring them again.
The thing I think that's worth noting about this so far is Ghost Army's already kind of done everything they need for their attacking half. 3 rounds in. Console is a super defender-sided map, and the fact that Ghost Army had won the first 2 attacks that we saw is great for them. Now, CrownZero need to do their absolute best to be pretty much flawless for the rest of this defense if they want any real chance of taking this first map. And going to Piano, it's not normally the strongest site that teams go to, and we'll see. Maybe Ghost Army won't be expecting it, but so far it seems like everything that they've encountered, they've had some sort of answer for.
Yeah, I mean, it makes more sense to go to piano for a lot of teams than going over towards that Telus side, Telus server side, because with
I
piano,
stand
it's all
by
about
that's
that
a good
verticality.
site.
Well, it worked. It held really well until you get to the last 30 seconds. But with this site, a lot more teams feel a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more standard in the fact of its verticality. You have these lines of sight that you can use your mirror windows from, and you can put a lot of pressure onto teams for crossfires like that. Nickit will find a kill onto Charlie. Yashiro and Skips have an answer of their own, but the C4 from the mirror finds Atox. And now 2 versus 4 High Bear.
Blitz flying in, maybe a little too close to the sun, taken down instantly before he even really makes it through the window. And the rest of the trade's absolutely favoring CrownZero. The only thing worth watching is this lurk, the knock, QLF getting aggressive, but there's 2 players stance up, ready to take the fight, and they will. Find QLF, taking him down, traded by Senzo. But he's just grasping at straws here, looking for something. He's going to be faced with a mirror window, feet holes, nothing but problems, and no real solutions to be found. Works his way back towards lower spiral. And pinged out by the Valkyrie. Bad to worse for him, and he's just gonna hold for a second, see if they'll give him anything. Hop on drones for a moment, but the floor bang will be enough. Nikki taking him down off the info from that Valt cam. It's a little too easy for CrownZero.
Yeah, I mean, I think they read into the fact that Ghost Army have liked to start things off strong and get these kills in early, get that early advantage, because that's exactly what they were ready for. I mean, yes, they lost that first player over towards the bathroom side, but they had players nearby. Nickit was ready with that Vector, with that C4 to just get an answer as soon as they got the kill. That's Blitz taken away. That's such an aggressive momentum factor taken off. And as soon as that happens, the rest of the attack feels a lot more neutered. 2 more kills going in favor of CrownZero in quick succession. And then you just saw Ghost Army just stop. They didn't really know what to do in that round. They realized they'd kind of lost it. Yeah, they tried to make something happen, but as soon as those 3 players died upstairs, that was pretty much it. They knew CrownZero were just going to focus on those 2 players when they were spotted. That's what we saw. You know, QLF and Sizdo didn't really have a chance. So now we're going to find ourselves heading to this basement site. Again, this is one where I expect to see a bit of roaming play coming out. I want to see Ghost Army take that verticality quite quickly. We saw them do it before on the first round. I want to see them do it again.
With this basement bomb site, you expect the attack to try and work a little bit of that verticality. And looking at the operator lineup being played by Ghost Army, you imagine that'll be the case. Realm clears with the Deimos, and they've also got the Ram to be able to open up the entire floor need be. Make their way up to the roof. It looks like you might just get your wish, McCready.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see it. They've also brought the IQ, just in case that Valkyrie's on the board. It isn't, but they're thinking about it. They're aware it was a bit of an issue last time, so that makes sense. The Deimos are going to be huge when dealing with this Vigil because, well, it makes a lot of sense. It's a live ping through a wall. They know where that player is, and they can keep that information, but they need to be aware of the players upstairs as well. You see Fleeks over towards the long desk will get spotted out, and the Vigil effect gives the information to Ghost Army that they're going to be up there. Question for me, how are these flank watches? How are these cut-off positions? Nearly going to see Fleeks run into it, but now the scan comes out. This is where we're going to see what these roamers are made of. Are they going to walk into these lines of sight that Ghost Army are looking for them to? Or are they just going to just run away, get back to sight scot-free? Seems it's going to be the latter, and we are going to see Ghost Army start to push down towards server.
Look at this cutoff. Senzo and QLF at the bottom of these stairs, and they've managed to get in behind the roamers. Reminder, all of the roamers fell back towards Visa and Tellers, and if they decide to make their way back to the basement, they're going to find themselves answered with 2 players lurking around archives. The fight that's going to come through might just be upstairs as Fleeks and Atox are just walking circles around each other, neither seemingly aware the other is there. A little bit of an inkling. Atox decides to check the hallway, but nothing yet found. Everyone just lurking around, and the first fight comes through. Nikki T taken down, explosive suddenly in the site. That site is forfeit. Here comes the track onto the Mozzie. Fleeks will manage to get away. Just barely get past, escape for a moment, but he's still being chased. The fight's coming through, though, on the site. The body is dropping everywhere, and suddenly Dipsy is the last alive. His entire team has fallen around him, and he'll fall too. Atox from across the map after taking down the only remaining roamer. And what a round off of Ghost Army, hitting the gap and capitalizing.
Yeah, very, very well played from them there. Ghost Army realizing those roamers are above. Yes, they had cut-off players. Yes, they had the Deimos upstairs. But then they had Sinzu and QLF. Like you say, they just went downstairs around the back of server. They used the Maverick to open that barricade stealthily so they could just walk in, take that control. And by the time that they realized that they were on site, QLF was able to just find a kill. They took down the bandit. They just turned the entirety of CrownZero into a panicking mess, because then they realized they had to rotate back to site. They were losing control. Yes, there was 1 or 2 refrags, but by that point, Ghost Army, they got them exactly where they wanted. 2 roamers on the top floor. That's when Atox can strike. I was so nervous that we weren't going to see Atox finding Fleeks, but they did in the end. They were able to get that kill. A very, very well played push from Ghost Army. They distracted the roamers, but dealt with the site. And again, it's coming down to just sneaking in little things that CrownZero aren't expecting. And that's winning the round for Ghost Army. That's what's getting the real advantages in that site. Going back to the top floor, we'll see how CrownZero are going to play this defense. They won the last one, but they weren't able to win the one before that. Ghost Army going to shake things up with the Flores and Glass here.
Maybe a different sort of execute. So far, Ghost Army, we've seen them go for nothing but admin clears. But this lineup, indicative of maybe something else. Possibly a bait towards admin and then a CEO window attempt. Also possible that Glaz, the intention is to just stare through checkers halls and try and punish the feet holes that CrownZero are playing in the projector wall. We'll see where it decides to be employed. So far, the setup looking very similar to what we've seen previously. Lots of players stacked towards admin, using the Malusi, or using the Banshee, apologies. Not the Banshee, the Brava to hack the Banshee, brought by Malusi.
You can't hide the stuff these days.
No, I know. I'm mixing everything up all over the place. But yeah, similar setup here out of Ghost Army, and we'll have to see where that Glaz ends up being employed. But after being inserted towards admin, I think my second guess might have been right.
Yeah, now looking towards this site, getting pressure in towards that admin side, getting the drones over towards Visa. They've used that Brava, like you say, the utility to get those Banshees in favor of the attackers now, so they know if someone's trying to swing or trying to flank that spiral. Very good for them. Nickit will take a lot of damage down over towards that window, and that's going to make that a lot tougher for that mirror to hold. Dipsy, with the fire in pocket, will be looking to do a lot of delaying action. They've got the smoke as well, and they've got all of those canisters in pockets. They're really waiting for the last 30 seconds to make that work. This is someone I saw before that I'm really liking from QLF. Using that utility, getting that shotgun to put that track stinger down, and then the frag grenade to follow. Doesn't find its mark, but doesn't have to. It's forced the mute out of the way. Fleeks has had to pull back. And look at this. They were aware of it, but so they needed to deal with it. And Sinzu's going to do exactly that. Finds Dipsy, takes away that Tachanka. 1 minute left, and utility starts to ring out. But you can still see Fleeks is ready to swing out. Not now, though, because Sips has found him. Atox gets Kazuto with a refrag, and a minute left ticking down. 3 versus 4. Candela's going off again. Atox finding another one. And the swing from Atox might just find Skips. It does! It's all down to Fleeks in a 1 versus 4. They spot the plant, though, High Bear.
Spotted is Fleeks, and he's going to have to run away. Going to reposition with that case. Charlie looking to get to a better spot. Will be downed by the C4, but it should be recoverable here. Has plenty of his teammates and plenty of his time is left on the clock for him to be picked up and the case to be started. And Fleeks is just stuck down below, locked inside a piano. Even if he tries to make his way out, QLF is there to answer, to pick him up. Here comes the fight. Here comes the engagement. Is Fleeks aware? No. Taken down easily by Atox. McCready, I just want to give myself a little pat in the back. From the moment I saw that Glaz, I knew exactly how it was going to be employed. Thrown on the ground, punishing the Mira on that deep angle through the feet holes with the smoke. What can I say? Sometimes I still got it.
Well, that's the big thing. I mean, that's what it's perfect for. The big advantage of that mirror window, I bet, is the vision. It is being able to look at somebody without being seen yourself. So what do? They flip that. They get that glass, they get the smoke grenades down, and Charlie's like, yeah, I know roughly where these guys are, but it's not the same. But knowing roughly is not the same as knowing exactly, because it's highlighted in yellow. Very well played, good problem solving coming out from Ghost Army, and they will find themselves on a 4-2 split. Going on to the defense now, they're going on to what is typically considered to be a favored half. And if they're going to play like their attack, but on the defense, I'm expecting very, very ratty roamers. Some very incredible moments coming through, because that's how they played it. If it was on the defense, it would have been ratty from what they've done. But they've identified key mistakes in the defense and tried to deal with it. On the attack, you'd expect them to do a little bit more of the same. But realistically, going to this top floor site, they just want to get that round under the way. They're not going to do what CrownZero did and say, let's go to the tertiary bomb site or the Tellers server 1 and hope it works. They're just going to say, right, let's get right into it. We're not messing around.
Ghost Army's playstyle, to me, feels like you're battling a bunch of ghosts, a little bit indicative in the name, but they just kind of appear where you least expect them. And you say ratty, I'd say ratty might not be the best word, but it's definitely surprising. You never know what to expect from the team, and it's incredibly effective. I'm gonna answer off to the start here. CrownZero getting rid of so much utility with a single Flores drone, but look how much plant denial Ghost Army has brought along. The Goyo, the Tachanka, the smoke, and a C4 out of Bandit. No matter where they try and go, this round is going to have to end in kills. I don't see a world where they're able to try and plant.
Yeah, exactly. So they can walk in with that Monty. They can use that Flores and that Ying to try and force these players out alongside the Nomad. But realistically, it's going to come down to frags. Ghost Army, a lot of pressure over towards that yellow side. The Flores is going to come in. It's going to force these players out of yellow hallway. And that's what's going to allow these attackers to push forward. Those smoke canisters can only last 45 seconds apiece. And when they are gone, that is it. Fleeks can just start to move forwards. Sinzu has to just get a lot more aggressive and get a lot more close. Time just ticking down. It's just going to be wasted. Are there any more Goyo canisters? Not at the moment, which means Goyo Atox is going to try and swing. Definitely feeling themselves with the frags at the moment, but it's going to be QLF finding that first kill. The impact comes out. The Monty takes some damage, but it's not the Monty that they're going to go for. Dipsy to get taken down. Fleeks is soon to follow. If they're not able to play this right, they're not, as Atox finds the kill onto them as well. Looking for the refrag. Nick will find it, but at 2 versus 4 with time ticking down, the smoke canisters and Sinzu swinging. It's just not going to happen. And now Kazuto all alone on yellow stairs will feel the pressure from that open yellow wall. The reason it's not been reinforced is for this exact reason. Yeah, they're going to spot Sinzu. They'll find the kill, but if they want to walk forward, they've got to kill Yashiro. They're going to find that pick as well. And now a 2 versus 1, but very little HP and 50 seconds left on the clock. You can't sneak around now. They're going to have to try and push forward. But look at the operators left. That is the worst combination to go up against.
Fenrir to give away the position as soon as he tries to walk in. Still 2 of those dread mines active. Unsure if there's one on the doorway that he's about to approach, but there is. He can just shoot a little bit of fire over, and with how low the HP on Kazuto is, it's not likely that he's going to survive. Here come the first fires. He does manage to sneak past, so maybe, just maybe a chance could possibly catch one of these players off guard, but he gives the game up, fires a couple of shots off position, now known. And the case is being played off in Narnia as far as he's concerned. There's no real chance of him being able to close the distance, and Charlie will swing off the info the cam provides, picking him up, taking him down, and CrownZero, failure to launch on their first attacking round.
Yeah, it just felt like they got into the yellow stairs. They had the Flores trying to push these players out, but they didn't really capitalize upon it. There was a lot of utility being used that they could have got an advantage off of. Those Goyo canisters were gone. You know, we saw some of the Fenrir gadgets go as well. Barbed wire being taken off the board. It just came down to Ghost Army being able to pick apart these players. The support for the Monty was taken away by Dipsy, by Skips. And then as soon as that happened, Fleeks was left in box with a Goyo in a 1 versus 1. As a Monty, it's a very difficult situation to win. It's not impossible, but they didn't have the space to get the melee off to stop that player. They get shut down, and then it's just down to the last 2 players on yellow stairs. A very good job to bring it back to as close as they did, but it was not really going to happen. Ghost Army, they had the time, the position, and most importantly, they had the util to back it up with info. Going on to this next site, though, heading down below, not really surprised to see that Ghost Army. They are looking to put themselves onto match point and hopefully get themselves onto, I believe it's Kaf Dostoyevsky, with that map in pocket and without conceding as many rounds as possible.
Moving on to the basement here, as you mentioned, pretty typical lineup for their defense. Got the C4s to deal with the vert, the mirror windows for info, and to make opening up this garage wall just a little bit more difficult. And the Roamer, the Solus, likely to be playing upstairs, likely to be looking to cause a couple of problems if the attack opts simply to go for a minimal take and try and hit site. Which so far looks like it may actually be the case, given the number of attackers who are stacked up outside a garage. Well, Fleek's taken down early. That's heartbreaking as Adox manages to drop the Monty.
Yeah, taking away the Monty again. That's the big driving operator we talked about towards yellow stairs being taken off as well. Atox is able to find another one and 5 skips on the yellow stairs and pulling out the SMG-11 with that shotgun in pocket. They've got a really good position to find themselves in. Yashiro is going to catch Dipsy on the drop, because why would the Solus be playing alone, especially on a basement when you could roam? That's going to be 2 versus 5 now. Yes, they could try and get the breach open with the Maverick, but there's no point trying to Maverick trick. There's not enough time, realistically, to get that done and push the site. Atoc's going to find CrownZero. Will also find the case down yellow stairs, and this round feels all but over already. Ghost Army and namely Atox just shutting that down really before it began.
I don't know what's happening, McCready, but so far on the attack, CrownZero hasn't even managed to make it inside the map. They've got control of one floor worth of yellow stairs one time, and that's it. Nikki T just simply baiting outside the map. He's getting pressed. They're jumping out windows because they know they've won. They don't really need to do a single thing, and Nikki, he's just sitting out here baiting because he knows he doesn't have a chance inside this round. There's no real hope, and now that his position is given away, gonna see QLF go and attempt the fight. Will he be able to find it? No. Nikki continuing to give up space. You're outside the building. You need to fight him at some point. And they continue to jump out the windows, looking for the engagement. A couple of shots ring off. Whiffing. And he's running towards Garage. Where are you going? You're running out of places to go. They got you surrounded. They're flanking you outside the map, and you don't even get one. Yoshiro will take him down, and CrownZero cannot get a single thing started on this consulate attack.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're going to see Ghost Army going on to match point to close things down already so quickly. And unsurprisingly, we're seeing CrownZero's timeout. They were trying to get a timeout at the end of that last round. That's why we saw that player just pull back and trying to get away from them. But it just wasn't going to happen. Ghost Army didn't let that happen. So CrownZero, what's going wrong in the attack? Why are they being picked off so quickly? It's these roamers. It's the crossfires that they're walking into. Ghost Army know exactly how they want to set these attacks up. They know exactly what CrownZero are going to do to try and deal with it, and they've dealt with it. They've realized what CrownZero want to do. They've positioned players nearby. Normally Atox and Sinzu at this point, but realistically, looking at it, CrownZero, it's feeling very one-dimensional. They died in yellow on that first round on the attack. Last round, most of those players died over towards those yellow stairs. There needs to be another kind of tip to the spear. There needs to be another point of attack, because otherwise they're just letting Ghost Army adapt around them. It's like when you try and poke a balloon, it goes everywhere around the finger. It's a horrible analogy, but it kind of gets across what I'm saying. As soon as we see CrownZero start to push, Ghost Army are molding around them.
One-dimensional might be a bit of an understatement, as CrownZero very literally only use I guess one-dimensional is apt, because it is just that single point of ingress. It's one approach, the yellow stairs skylight and the yellow stairs. That is the only thing they fought for so far, and they have just lost at the entry point in both attacking rounds so far. Last round, especially bad, as the Monty, your spearhead, the one player who cannot die to being shot in the front, is just instantly taken down. And at that point for CrownZero, it just feels over. Like there's not really anything else they can do. But we need to see more from them. They need to do better. And we'll take a look at what the approach is here as they attempt this next round, attempt to work in towards Piano. We'll manage to get a little bit done with the Twitch drone initially, dropping a BP, getting rid of some Goyo canisters before it's traded off. That's already a much better result than we've seen so far at a CrownZero, but the bar is pretty low.
Yeah, that's the thing. The current objective is to survive for CrownZero, and most importantly, Fleeks. Like you say, first person to be taken off both times. The yellow stairs is the big problem. That's where they've been picked off both times. So
these yellow stairs again.
How are they going to deal with it? Go bottom yellow stairs. Ooh, okay. Please, no. Look at this though. Nickit and Skips at least are there to back them up. They're there to support them. That means that they could say, right, okay, you're not going to get flanked straight away, but you can always be jumped on from top yellow. Somebody else has to be there to deal with it. At the moment, the Candela's going to go through, and that's going to try and discourage anyone nearby to get them. But Nickit will find a first kill. QLF will get taken down, and we'll be looking for another one as Sinzu and Atox each pick up a kill of their own. 4 versus 3. The Monty's taken away again. Dipsy with that goo mine will start to lose that damage unless they take the fight, but they know the defenders are nearby. Dipsy, Nickit, and Kazuto will try and make this work, but you can see that player up top, yellow, going into the pinch, will be taken down by Atox. And yeah, Charlie's down. Nobody wants to wrestle. Why? Because they can get kills. Now they might need to, though, as Kazuto puts into a 2 versus 2.
Body's a little bit closer here, but Atox with the answer will take him down, and Kazuto is the last one alive. They go for the res here. A little bit of a second where there might be a chance for him to pick up that down player, but makes better of it. Goes to the sprint and then sprints back. Some low HP here. Certainly not impossible, but Kazuto will need to find all three in order to continue with his team. The C4 comes out, ton of damage done, but he does survive for just a moment longer. Chance manages to find the first fight, isolates it, but Atox takes him down, and that will be map 1, heading the way of Ghost Army. CrownZero only managing to find 2 rounds.
Yeah, and not a great attacking round to start things off, but if you are CrownZero, you can look at this in a different way. That is not your map pick. That is not the map you expect to find yourself on. Ghost Army, winning that one out, okay, yeah, sure, you can live with it, but it's their map pick. Let them have it. It's just giving them a little bit of encouragement before you really put the hurt on when you go to KAF Dostoyevsky. But I've got to be honest, Libet, I'm a little bit worried for KAF Dostoyevsky. One of the big problems we saw from CrownZero was little chinks in the armor being identified and pushed on, and then on the attack, yellow stairs. I just have to say yellow stairs, and you know exactly what I mean. KAF Dostoyevsky is a map with 2 staircases that are the fundamental locations to get through these sites. How are CrownZero going to deal with that when they don't have any other options? That's the big scary thing for me. But we have to give it a breather before we get onto it.
The good news for CrownZero, I think, is that there isn't a yellow stairs on Cafe, but we'll look into it a second more. Do a little bit of a preamble before getting into map 2. We'll be coming up very soon. So go grab yourself a snack, some water, a drink, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with map 2. Welcome back to our stream for this playoff match between Ghost Army and CrownZero in the ESA Cup Season 10 playoffs. We just finished map 1 on Consulate. Ghost Army's map pick, and it went very much in their direction. They pick it up 7-2, a dominant scoreline before heading into Cafe, our second map here, picked by CrownZero. My name is Highbear. I'm here with my co-caster, McCready. McCready, getting into it. It's not looking too hot for CrownZero as of yet.
No, when you look at the scoreline of 7-2, it really isn't. But I think there's a few caveats we need to address with that. There were some rounds that we all kind of looked at and think, oh, what's happening there? But there were some other rounds, for example, I think it was the second to last round that we saw on the top floor site on the defense for the side of CrownZero. They got it really close. They did really well. I think you said the difference between a round win and a round loss in favor of Ghost Army was 10 HP across the board. Like, we're seeing little things that they are doing well. They just need to lock in a little bit more. The attack needs some work as well. There's some choke points that they just need to find their way out of and find another way around. When they go to the defense, though, I feel like as long as they lock in together, coordinate, and they just kind of think about how Ghost Army are going to approach. It's a very aggressive, a very fast play style when they start things off. They can have a bit of a better time on Cafe, their map pick.
And that is the crucial thing here. This is CrownZero's map pick, so it stands to reason that they'd have a better chance at having good ideas for how to approach this map.
Yeah.
Last map on Consulate, all we really saw was a funnel, a choke point inside of yellow stairs that they could not get past on the attack. On Cafe, it's very similar of a setup. With the approach to the actual map itself, you kind of have to funnel through a couple of different choke points that are quite difficult to fight through, namely the red stairs hatch, which plays out quite similarly to the yellow skylight on Consulate. Yeah, but I have to hope that CrownZero will have some better ideas for how to get past that red hatch inside of the second map, given that it is their map pick, and as we see, they are starting on the attack.
Being again, like you say, their map pick, though, you would hope they do. Whether it be a player putting pressure over towards white, whether it be a player pushing towards brown stairs, we'll find out. CrownZero, they're going to ban out Ying, and that makes a lot of sense based on what we've just seen on Consulate. Ghost Army, they played Ying well. Candelas were used not necessarily to blind specific people and rush and swing. They were used to force key defenders out of key positions, like your long desk and that middle hallway, just to make sure that the attackers could take control of setup. So CrownZero is saying, well, that had a big impact with that, we'll take it away. Ghost Army, very similar thing. They've gone with the Bravo. They've seen the impact that it's had, and starting on the defense first, they want to take away that util denial operator. They want to make sure that CrownZero, if they want to stop utility going in their favor, they've got to destroy it. They can't just steal it and say these cameras are mine. And Valkyrie's going to be banned out as well. A bit of a more standard ban for a map like Cafe, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty normal. And It's one of those operators that can find a lot of value on Cafe, with her being able to spread those cams across the second and third floor to play for C4s. Obviously very powerful here. And oh my, another camera operator taken down. There's going to be no info for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at that, the Echo being taken away, not a lot of teams will tend to say, right, we'll just get rid of the Maestro, the 3 cameras there, the bulletproof ability. That can be a big draw as to why some teams will try and take it away. But Echo has one thing that Maestro doesn't, the instant denial of a plan. Some of those rounds did come down to the time, and we saw the better team able to just edge it out over the other. The Echo, that has the potential to do exactly that. Take away those yokai drones, you take away that chance, you force the defenders to get into a lot more closer situation to win these gunfights. Now, top floor, Ghost Army, going onto the defense, they know exactly what they need to do. They know exactly how they're going to set things up. They're going for that piano setup already. They've got the utility to play that position, maybe go over towards the cigar shop, and it definitely looks like they're going to do that setup. They're going to have that sentry there, or at least another player like that, maybe the Wamai, hold that position down, waste utility, waste time, and they've reinforced the hatch. So you know what that means, Tybear? That means they are playing there until they die or until they get 5 kills. That's just how that spot works. So stay in there. They're going to have to waste a lot of time and a lot of utility. And ideally for Ghost Army, that's the name of the game. You stop CrownZero from getting in, getting control, so that when they do take control of that cigar shop, they're in a very difficult time deficit. Spawn Peak goes through, doesn't find any kills. But Blackbeard's on the board.
Powerful operator who we did not see on Consulate. This time, the Ying and the Brava being those banned outs, that leaves every single attacking shield available. A Cafe, that's a dangerous prospect, especially that Blackbeard, for being able to cross the open rooms, piano notably, but also bakery, the kitchens downstairs. So they'll be playing a little bit differently here with those extremely different bans. We'll see if CrownZero are able to use it to their advantage, be able to pick up a couple of picks.
Yeah, exactly. Now the Mute Jammer is going to do a lot of favor. It's going to use that utility. It's going to take away those drones. And what you see now is you can see that they're meleeing that castle barricade, the sentry, sorry. They melee the castle barricade. It allows them to walk out. A utility comes through. The attackers still have to waste utility to get that line of sight. The defender can still escape just as easily. Very nicely done so far. Abana Pellets will start to open up piano, will look to try and pinch out Sinsnu, as well as that player over towards the minibar window. But right now, CrownZero, they're not getting too far in. They could use utility, but the one-mine magnets would cause issues. So they're waiting their time, and they're making sure they use it at the perfect spot. Flashbangs go to burn out the utility. The frag grenade will surely follow.
Oh, he missed the frag grenade.
No, doesn't find it smart, but the shield goes down High Bear, and that's a much harder spot for that sentry to hold now.
Marginally, but here comes the flank up red stairs. A little bit of damage done onto Nikki as he goes for the drop, and here comes the castle barricade being popped. Senzo now in trouble. Tough shot to hit, especially on the controller, but he's going to make it look a little bit easier than it might for others. That dude, incredible with that gun, and hits the one tap, taking down Kazuto. Goes for the fight against the Blackbeard with the shotgun, but not able to find a thing. Will be traded, but what a shot out of Senzo. The fact he even finds one in that position, McCready.
Yeah, nearly could have found that Blackbeard, but wasn't able to, but made up for it in a massive way, taking away the Ash and the utility for that late round. 50 seconds ticking down, and now CrownZero are starting to push in. They haven't got any pressure over towards Piano just yet, and they can start to walk in. I think they have got their repel in now, but that's just the damage. That's just skips. They haven't dealt with Pixel. They haven't dealt with this mute who's just going to rotate back. A 4 versus 4 and time firmly in favor of Ghost Army. CrownZero need to step this up, ramp up that energy. And now as time starts to tick down, you will hear the Cali start to put the pressure on. Abana Pellets will go out as well. Some more lines of sight to be made. But with 20 seconds left, this push has to come through. What you're going to see is a demo scan, and you're going to see Blackbeard start to push in. A kill has to follow. Dipsy finds the first one there to start things off. The refrag comes out from QLF, and Charlie get a kill of their own. And now it's down to Fleeks and Nickit. Nickit goes down. Fleeks has no choice but to keep that plank going down. And as a result, they find themselves in the middle of the shark pit. 3 defenders rotating around, looking to take them out. The defuse starts. The Romans are there to hold it. Fleeks finds Charlie with a shotgun. Surely can't get the second as Yushiro gets that kill. The first round in favor of Ghost Army.
Hasn't got the bullets on the Hibana to be whipping that many shots, and the follow-up is there. The trade, the refrag from Yushiro will be enough to get the round over the line. Ghost Army starting well. The back of a beautiful shot from Senzo, and then some great late round positions as the time started getting low.
Yeah, I mean, they played that position very well. The utility they went onto that hatch. They knew that because it's reinforced, they can't be pushed from below. But then when that ash went over towards the piano window, it just made it a lot more difficult. They needed to cover two angles at once: the red drop and the window. They could have got that black bit a lot earlier, made that round even easier for themselves. But at the end, they got that one pick. It worked things out. They didn't get the kill onto the Blackbeard, but that wasn't the end of the world. We're going to head down to the basement. We're going to see the Scopos coming out as well. Really good fluidity when it comes to these roamers. And it brings up one of those issues that we talked about. We talked about choke points. We talked about these hatches. A Scopos doesn't have to deal with that. They can just rotate back at the site in the blink of an eye. And then that drone on the top floor is just info and maybe gets taken out. But you've got a player downstairs below.
It's an interesting operator for sure. Super powerful with being able to rotate around the map, take advantage of the fact that she can just get back to site without having to worry about getting cut off. And with Cafe, there are so many different cutoffs where she could be taken down. Bit of a late reinforcement coming through here, but with the tag team duo, Atox and Senzo do manage to get it down before instantly sprinting upstairs to go be that thorn in the side on the roam to counter perfectly, I might add. This lineup brought along by CrownZero, very vert heavy with the gridlock to lock down the flanks and the Monty for the clear. They're going to be trying to deal with these roamers relatively quickly, and Ghost Army are going to be as much of a problem for them as they can.
Yeah, the big thing here is Kazuto and Dipsy. They've got the bug, they've got the ram. They're going to look at starting that verticality towards that engine side and that dining area. Once they're able to do that, they can start dealing with utility, get those walls open. But most importantly, it's the post plant I'm thinking of for the verticality. That means Ghost Army need to get these kills very, very quickly. They need to deal with these roamers so that when it does come to that late round, they have that potential. They have that control of that top floor. Now, though, Ishiro and Sinzu, like you say, are still up there. They know the Monty's there. They have rotated the player around. There's actually 3 roamers upstairs at the moment. And if you see CrownZero read into this, they might be able to deal with it. They might be able to just rush down. But for the time being, we're going to keep those players upstairs. QLF will take damage from White. Doesn't matter. They're just going to rotate back and stay on site. The time ticks down. The vert does begin, but only on that top floor. They haven't moved down to that museum just yet.
Atox undroned as of yet, persisting on these white stairs. A player behind him on the window, and he might just expose his head to Pixel. The drone comes through, spots him, and he will look to push back, give up the space instead of giving up his life, because his teammate Yoshiro was taken down elsewhere. But there's the answer. Fleeks on the Monty, able to take him down as he tries to escape. Look at this. Senzo persisting, still upstairs, but will lose the fight to Scops as he swings out and manages to take down that Scopos, who would teleport it back up to hell.
Yeah, much better round coming out from CrownZero. They've got 3 kills on the board. They've not lost anyone just yet, and the verticality is coming through. A lot of damage onto Charlie, meaning there's about 10 HP on the board for QLF and Charlie here. Going to make it very difficult for these defenders to stop this attack, especially with the Monty on the board and the verticality we talked about. 50 seconds ticking down. They can just walk into freezer. They can walk over towards that double door side, but if they do, they need to deal with QLF. They're going to be able to do exactly that, finding the kill. And as the Monty starts to get that plan down, now it's just a case of covering the crossfires. Gypsy going to do that from the vert, a lovely angle. I always try and use this one from that pillar side all the way down to double. It just shuts off that cross, and there you go. That's a round in favor of CrownZero, and a comfortable one at that. The roam clear really didn't stress them out.
No, they managed to deal with that super effectively. Hilarious to me seeing the Monty managing to be cut off and taking down the Mossy of Atox as Atox attempted to rotate back to site. Sometimes that's just how she goes, though. Ghost Army trying a little too much on that roam, I'd say, and end up finding themselves punished because of it. CrownZero, a much better attacking idea inside that round than we've seen previously. They managed to get their first attack of Cafe, already better on the attack than they were in all of Consulate. And Signs of Light, I might add, of Life, apologies, I might add. They looked very strong with that roam clear.
Yeah, definitely. I'm quite happy to see that kind of change that we've seen, especially from Consulate. I feel like going into this defensive side now for Ghost Army, because their question is, how do they deal with it? How do they adapt to what they've got to deal with now? Well, I feel like it's not committing to that roam as much. I mean, lost these players very early on. They didn't really get much back for it. They didn't get any kills really until the end of the round. QLF, though, is going to listen to me. We'll deal with that and we'll find Nickit very quickly. And that's the Habana taken away. And if you look at the utility, Hyber, that is all the harm breach taken away in one bullet. That is an impact frag if I have never seen one before.
Just when I start to give CrownZero some credit, things instantly fall apart. Nickit going down. Dipsy taken out on his way to the roof. QLF with 2 so far on the round. I mean, I don't want to write this off already. We're 40 seconds in, but you're in a tough position here if you're CrownZero. You're going to have to try and find something back. And with the Monty being one of those players left alive, I mean, excellent for taking space. Super good in positions where you have an even man count or a man advantage. But when you're down numbers, you just really want those guns to be able to attempt to lurk, to work forward, to see if you can find yourself a fight. Because that Monty in the numbers down scenario is likely to find themselves just herded into a corner and dropped by a variety of players going for the press.
Exactly.
Things look tough here for CrownZero as they try and push forward.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see now Skips and Kazuto, they both have that verticality potential. Kazuto has to log in, has to be on that verticality. They cannot afford to go off. That means when it comes to that basement and the push, it is down to Fleeks and Scripts. There is no other choice. You cannot bring that buck off that vert, because if you do, then you're going to struggle. At the moment now, you can see that Scripts is going to help out with the vert. Fleeks has just walked off away just to play it safe. But think about the lines of sight here. They need to open up that freezer wall. If Kazuto doesn't do it and just walks away like that, that Monty has to vault in. And if Monty has to vault in, you know that makes him a big target, Hyber. So that's, I need to see Buck just rotate around. On the flip side, though, we've seen CrownZero do exactly that. Looks like a bakery push is the one to go for. The goo mine will start to go there, put the pressure on it, and make it harder. The impact nade's going to miss its mark. The Banshee will still go off, and the information is going to be given away, but the flashbang follows. The push from Monty's there as well. Charlie's going to move forward. The impact comes out. They walk into the crossfire, get taken down. It's all down to Skips and Kazuto as the Monty with the case is felled inside that bakery.
The Lucy gadget being enough to slow that Monty to prevent him getting close enough to knock over Charlie and pull out the pistol to go for that kill. The bodies continue to drop here for CrownZero. Suddenly just 2 left alive. Kazuto on such low HP. Skips still outside a bakery, but he's not likely to find anything as long as Ghost Army don't give him any fights. And even if they do hold the angle, it's still not looking too likely because the time is just so low. They press up the stairs, they take him down, and the Banshee revealing the position of Skips as he attempts to push in. An easy pickup for Ghost Army, and they managed to get themselves another defense.
Exactly, and at the end of the round, very, very easy for them. QLF getting that Habana in the first place, huge kill. And then they got the second one pretty quickly to back things up. CrownZero, like you said, they had a Monty. That was a great operator to have, but Ghost Army read into the playbook a little bit too easily. They got those opening kills, and suddenly that Monty was more of a detriment. Going down to that basement in the end of the round, Ghost Army, they just had to play it together. What you saw there was crossfires, there were refrags set up. They knew exactly what they needed to do to win that round, and realistically, it was theirs to lose. If they lost that round, then CrownZero deserved to win it, if that makes sense. Going back to the top floor, though, let's see, are we going to see any changes to the Ghost Army setup? Are they still going to have that cigar shop player, or are they going to just back it up a little bit more, focus more on the mirror towards Freezer and Cocktail side, and take advantage of some long angles, especially going up against a Cali? That's a choice.
Senzo was that cigar shop player last round, and him being on the mirror leads me to believe that they will not stick that high-value operator inside of the cigar shop box. Yet to be seen, though, as we haven't quite finished this setup. Looks like, and I think I'm right, yeah, they'll be backing things up, playing a little bit more of a conservative defense, and forcing CrownZero to execute into them, which, in my opinion, is actually a very good thing here, because CrownZero, the only round that they've managed to win was the one where they were able to find fights in the opener. They were able to get picks early. If Ghost Army forced them to execute, so far they've not been able to really get anything done. Even the round they got into sight, they were rapidly taken down. Well, notably, Atox is actually in this position for the start of the round. May opt to play this forward aggressive position a little longer than we expected.
Yeah, so you can see, though, they've actually backed off a little bit. They made sure they were seen, they made sure they were heard, and the utility's still there that signifies that they're going to have that hold in shop. but they've actually backed off. So now CrownZero have to act on the assumption that that player is in that cigar shop. They need to deal with the player that's on that hatch, even though it's not there. That's so much phantom pressure put in just for the sake of an extra 30 seconds. You see, though, Kazuto doesn't know that that's clear. They just think that the player's holding so passively. The drone will go through, spot that it's clear, and now Ghost Army. The ruse is up. The CrownZero are aware that you've backed away. Think about the time that's been wasted there, Hyber. Think about how much longer Ghost Army have had to kind of get that utility there and agree on these crossfires. The frag grenade goes through, and to save themselves from getting taken out, Nickit will have to breach in through to that red. But now they need to deal with the mirror. That's the big problem here.
In terms of time, not too terrible on the side of CrownZero, in my opinion. With this top floor, you don't actually have that much map control you need to take. So as long as you're getting in red with about a minute and a half left in the game, in the round, there's still some potential here. Kazuto, though, he's used both of those Ash breaching charges, and there is still a mirror window active. So we're going to have to see the Hibana be the one to attempt to get rid of them. We'll open up a little bit of a hole in this cocktail wall, and the grenade sailing through is likely to force this player to move. Might be cut off, but no, he managed to survive and win the fight. Atox with a miracle kill, taking down Nickit. And that's your Blackbeard. That's the spearhead of your push. An unbelievable shot out of him, but will finally be traded. Skips managing to pick up both Atox and Charlie, taking the player off that mirror window as well as the cocktail. Now, falling back is the remainder of the defense, and there is somebody on that heaven window, likely to repel in momentarily, but QLF down below could find him if he attempts to go for it, and he will. QLF with that find, taking down that heaven player, and the push has to come through. Aggression here. Skips trying to find a fight. Kazuto taken down elsewhere, and nothing to be found. Fleeks will be dropped from the mirror window as he attempts that push into sight. And it's all coming up Ghost Army, despite an unbelievable start. A wonderful start, apologies, using the nades to force that castle to move.
Yeah, CrownZero, that was looking so good. That was really good use of utility. Force that castle out with the Hibana pellets. It meant that there was a lot of damage taken, but it just came down to Ghost Army being able to win their gunfights and find that pick. For me then, though, that round wasn't over, though, Hyber. There was still really good opportunities that I feel like CrownZero squandered a little bit. Yeah, they had the player Riverward 7 that died to QLF. That happens. Move on from it. Dipsy, normally a pretty sound player, wasn't able to have that much of an impact in that round. But it comes down to the piano player that we saw full sprinting towards Pixel. All that kind of got dealt with, but then there was 30 seconds left on the clock. The mirror windows were still up. They hadn't really been dealt with. There was nothing the attackers had to kind of deal with that, because a lot of utility was used to try and get into red, to try and get over towards Cocktail side and push that player out. I feel like in the CrownZero panicked a little bit. They forgot about some of the key problems they were going to face, and as a result, they kind of walked in through Cigar Door, into two mirror windows, into the line of sight defenders. They could have had so much more from that round, but they just didn't. Now the Ghost Army going to head down to that bottom floor side. They've got 3 rounds on the defense to start things off. Now they're going to look at trying to make that 4 and possibly 5. It's definitely doable, but I do believe that CrownZero can make this work. This recipe for this side success is a lot like the basement for the start. It's about the verticality. It's about taking that top floor control. Once you've got Cocktail, you start doing vert, you get a kill, you go for the plant. It's as good as yours. How are they going to deal with this top floor? That's the question here.
The question indeed. The hardest part of the map to attack, and will they check behind J-Desk? Can't tell if that drone lagged out or if it spotted someone. It looks like Skips, right before he would have checked the position, suddenly lost the ability to move his drone and might be lagging out of the lobby. At least we'll continue to drone through. Yeah, sounds like a disconnect.
Oh, no.
Skips taken down. Skips taken down, and that means that Shiro has been undroned, unspotted behind J-Desk. That's actually a tragedy. I can't believe my eyes.
And an
spotted as
attacker
the
off the
grenade
board.
sails in, but QLF wins the fight anyways somehow. Shiro as well from behind J-Desk will be able to take down Fleeks, and CrownZero heartbreak on the entry as a player lagging out just misses the one problem that stood in their way, as the Goyo lurked in wait behind that J-Desk.
Yep, and that's just the worst way you want to see that round go out. With play taken away from a disconnect, nobody spotted, and as a result, that kill come out from Yashiro. Kazuto will get a refrag and will take that player and punish them. but a minute 25 left on the clock. 2 attackers on the board up against 4 defenders. Again, Ghost Army, they just need to play numbers. They have top floor control, so they just need to play Vit. For CrownZero, they're realistically just going to look at heading over towards that meeting side, the dining side, because they know they can't get readings. So that's why Kazuto finds Charlie, starts to push in and keeps an eye over towards White, finds a player over towards Laundry. Now this round is starting to heat up a bit. The verticality, the flames will start to go through, but the plan is also going. The defenders are not in a position to deal with this, so the drop will come through onto that pillar side. Senzu will take damage, will take some damage from Kazuto, finds the kill though, and Senzu will be able to find that player. Dipsy, playing from below, will use these Grim canisters with the bees to stop that plan from going down. They will know if they're about to get pressured. The time ticks down, 25 seconds, there's 2 defenders on the board. They know that they can outnumber this player. They just need to make sure they win it. They don't know where they are. The C4 goes out to White, doesn't find the mark. The defuse starts to go through. Dipsy realizes they have to pre-fire. They don't know where that player is. The drop comes through from QLF. Sinzo gets a kill, and they're going to get that down in time. That's a 4th round for Ghost Army. And CrownZero, with one more player, that could have been a win.
A heartbreaking round for CrownZero as things start horribly. A disconnect, players going down, a 5v2 for your opponent. But then Hero plays in the mid round as Kazuto just soldiers it up, works his way through site seemingly all by himself, picks up all the kills they need to be able to get plant down, but then the post plant unable to be held. The Grim down below, such a good idea, using with the Bailiff as the idea to be able to open up the floor on the player once they get on that case. But Ghost Army reading things perfectly, understanding the idea and being able to take down the Grim down below as they went for that, before going for that defuse, apologies, and Senza with just enough time on the board to be able to get it down, to be able to pick up that player as well as the case. That's another round going the way of Ghost Army, securing themselves a relatively dominant advantage in the first half.
Yeah, and CrownZero, they're going to feel very shaken at that because that was their opportunity to keep a 3-3 split on the boards. That was their opportunity to go into their defensive side with a clear advantage, with a clear opportunity to really start making some gains. But because of that, like you say, a player disconnected, a Roma wasn't droned. Yes, somebody should have picked that up as well, but they didn't think to do that. And you just think that in that situation at the end, they're having 3 players instead of 2 could have been so much more massive. And if that drone went through and just went a little bit further, that might not have even been the case at all. We are waiting for that last player to join in so we can get them back in, but CrownZero, they're going to be feeling the pain of that one, whereas Ghost Army feels like they got away with a little bit of a miracle there because that round was a little bit too close for comfort, wasn't it? I mean, yeah, very well played from Dipsy, but it did get very close. So I think it was only 2 seconds away from that round going in favor of CrownZero.
It was tight. It was tight for sure. I can't get over the fact that that drone is about to check J-Desk. Like, you can see it's about an inch away from spotting the dude's leg, and then the disconnect comes through, stuck in place. I mean, that's a back-breaking round, it feels like, for CrownZero, especially like losing the player, losing the opener, bringing it back, getting it so dang close, but not managing to get it over the line. It feels like CrownZero, they're just banging their heads against the wall at this point. They keep trying things, they keep coming up with ideas, but seemingly nothing working. And that last round, that's Ghost Army's offsite. That's the one that CrownZero is supposed to win, and they still can't get it. Now we're heading back onto one of Ghost Army's favored sites, one of the ones that they choose to defend.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, McCready, I gotta say.
I mean, yeah, I am as well, because I feel like given another attempt, CrownZero could have taken that site if they had another opportunity, but they don't. Like you say, this is the last attacking round CrownZero are going to have unless we go to overtime, and a big ask is going to be required of them if we do that. But this kitchen site was the one round they were able to win so far, so there is a chance. It just comes down to that top floor. Are they going to lose these players early on? Are they going to lose their Habana almost instantly? That's the big question there. And then are they going to realize that Ghost Army will definitely be prepared for this roam clear? CrownZero have tried it twice on this site. They've dealt with the roam clear. They lost the first one, but then they adapted the second time of asking. There were players there that didn't really put much pressure on that top floor. They played it safe, they played it together, and they were able to find picks one-on-one. If CrownZero were able to read into that and say, well, maybe it might just be worthwhile getting an opening pick and then going away, or if they lose that first player, okay, well, what if we try a more lateral take onto site? Then that might be the case, but I don't know. I'm worried as well, but I feel like CrownZero, they have a good chance. They can do this.
I like your idea of going for a sort of lateral take, but it will be a moment before we get to see that, as we're being told that we are heading to a rehost. So we're going to throw to a quick break for a little bit, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with more action very soon.
And we are back. We had to take a short break there as one of the players had to leave and we had to do a quick rehost, but that's okay because we're getting back into it. Ghost Army probably feeling a lot more comfortable now they've had a bit of time to talk about it, and CrownZero probably not complaining either because they've had some time to think about what's happened, what's gone wrong, how are we going to deal with this bottom floor take. I've talked a little bit about it so far. I think lateral takes were mentioned, maybe kind of adjusting to deal with how Ghost Army counter it. What do you expect to see in this round, Hyber?
I see three shields, actually. So I think that we might be seeing that lateral take, McCready. Look at the lineup they've got here. The Ralra, the 3 shields, the Ace were just bursting in. Looks like they want to cause problems. They want to go fast, and they want to get this last round. Expecting a big take. Let's see how it goes for them.
Yeah, like you say, that Rura being brought on the board alongside those shields means that they can get in fast, they can get in hard, and most importantly, they can shut off rotates. But these roamers with the impacts are going to cause issues. There's still 3 in pocket that can deal with them. Now, 2.5 minutes left on the clock. The start yet to really begin. A lot of utility going to go and get taken out by these frag grenades. But look at that, the Goyo Shield. It's given so much time and it's given so much information. Ghost Army know what's happening. They know what CrownZero are trying to do, and they have time to adjust. The Ruro will cut things off. And while it is good in this case, because it means that the Roamers can't get back to site as soon as he finds Nicky, it means that they only have one place to look as the defenders. They can look towards that double door and find 2 kills, which is exactly what they've done. Now rotating to small bait, we see Skips and Dipsy trying to put pressure on, and now it's down to the shields here, Hyber, to win out this round.
Hard and fast is the attempt, but things instantly shut down. Senzo with a great pick, taking out the Ralra, and the C4 getting rid of Nickit. So all you've got left are these shields, as you mentioned, and they're going to go for a little bit of a rotate here. They know that they can't take their intended approach, though Fleeks will manage to battle back a little bit, equalizing the numbers as they start to rotate over towards Restaurant. Ready for the hop in. Here it comes. Skips someone, but he hits a Fenrir in mine. QLF will take down his teammate that went with him. So the 2 remaining attackers on opposite sides of the map from each other. One of them with a gun, the other one not. He's taken down suddenly. Just Skips left, looking for something. Going for a tap. A little bit of a jiggle battle on that doorway. Thinks better of it, repositioning back outside. And despite the quick attempt out of CrownZero, seemingly all it leads to is a quicker end to the round, as the only player left is Skips. Having the clutch here over towards main lobby.
Not going to happen. Ghost Army are able to pick up another round, give themselves a 5-1 split as they pick that up. Like I said, I think the round just didn't really do much to help out the team. It stopped the rotate from coming through, but CrownZero, they neglected to have any other kind of alternative pressure. By putting that Ruber down, they couldn't apply any pressure towards double, towards red, to make the defenders look elsewhere. They could all just focus on double, find the 2 kills on the players that weren't playing shields, and then it just kind of shut down. Maybe having someone pressure towards that VIP a lot earlier, over towards white maybe, could have offered them a little bit more benefit because it splits the attention of the defenders. Not going to be the case though. We are going to see CrownZero going onto their defensive side with only 1 round in pocket, which is a lot less more comfortable than they were on Consulate, and that was still a very strong map for Ghost Army. Going to Museum and Dining for the first site here. An interesting one because, again, like Consulate, starting out on a site you wouldn't typically expect to see the defenders go to.
Just trying to throw a little bit of a mix-up in there. I don't know if I agree with it, given the current scoreline of things. CrownZero seemingly liking their weird sites to start things off, to try and throw a wrench in the plans of Ghost Army. But so far, Ghost Army has had all the answers, and I expect nothing to be different here. A couple interesting operators. Senzo playing the Sense. It's kind of cool, like similar to his name, and the Raura as well, brought by QLF. I have to imagine that the idea here is to use the Raura to try and make something happen, but I can't for the life of me figure out what the idea might be. Maybe onto Piano Double Door, maybe to try and lock the defender inside of sight out of mining so they can try and jump in through the window towards cases? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to pair very well with this Aurora, because if they can coordinate the timing very well, they can not only cut off doorways, but also lines of sight. So any footholds maybe towards dining by that fireplace, that gets cut off as well. Any lines of sight over towards that museum side can be taken away as well, and you stop that rotation. But again, it comes down to this verticality, because with the site being where it is, Piano is the perfect place for the defenders to hold. That's exactly what they're going to do. Ghost Army need to clear this out. And they're no doubt going to be aware of that player over towards the freezer, and hopefully are going to be aware of Kazuto on the white stairs. The time ticks down, and Ghost Army, they're going to make sure that they get the most out of it. The droning, the information, that's what they need to get, and then they can kind of start to position themselves in a way that will work out for this execute. Starting to put some pressure in. Charlie's going to be over towards the cigar shop side. Will be taken out by Sipso from Pixel. Doesn't win that gunfight, and the Thatcher's taken off the board as well. While Skips is taken out to low HP, they are able to escape, and with halfway on the round, the first pick in favor of the defense. That's not a bad start. Refrag does come out, don't get me wrong, but that is time wasted. They're going to start taking that top floor control now.
Skips is low HP, so that might come to bite CrownZero later on in the round. A single shot from any of the attacker weapons will be enough to drop him. He's down in the basement, looking to maybe attempt a bit of a flank here. Meantime, rest of Ghost Army on that top floor and on the site windows, starting to apply that pressure. Oh, looks like they might be aware. Here comes the pinch onto him, but no, not a clue. Adoc's taken down. Skips will be able to get away with his life. He's found so much value inside this round so far, but here's the execute. The sense is tossed in. Nickit with the answer. Taking down Senzo, QLF, and Yashiro, the last two alive, trying to find players, but they're not finding a thing. They're not approaching the site. These sense gadgets are about to wear off, and here comes the fight through the floor. The damage done, tons of bullets missed. Kazuto will escape, though, and still enough time here, but you don't really have an approach if you are Ghost Army. First one found. QLF. Great drop onto the player to be able to take him down, and still has plenty of HP to his name. He's barricaded off from pushing any further. Oh, through the couch! Are you kidding me, QLF? Suddenly it's winnable! The jump comes through. Nickit with one. QLF will have to ace. It's got about 15 seconds left to do it. No case control, so he needs to find the fight. It's the long angle. Found. The shot's not hit. QLF might be aware of Nickit's position. He needs to go quickly. You don't have the time for this. You cannot afford to faff about. You need to engage. Finds the first. Will he find the second? He will not. Skips is in Narnia down in the basement, and from there he will clutch the round. He'll do everything he needs to, and CrownZero take a second round on Cafe.
Skits. What a player in that round. The massive impact kills that we saw. The first one was huge. They escaped out of Pixel. They lost so much HP, and they stayed in that basement. Atox didn't even know that that player was on red stairs. They did everything right for the side of Ghost Army in that particular moment, except expect that player to be on red stairs. The ace gets taken down to player deficit, and then as soon as that happens, things start to fall apart. The verticality, yeah, Ghost Army do take it. They start doing some vert work, but then the bars just do as much damage as they do help the attackers. They don't really get much to work off from it. And then when it comes down to the end, a huge attempt from QLF there, but just time wasn't on their favor, and the case was not in the right spot. Very well played from CrownZero. I'm very excited to see if they can translate that onto these other sites. And going on to Reading Dining, they're going to look for more of the same. It's all about that top floor again with the verticality control and getting those, wasting the time and utility above. And then you just drop down to that second floor site. Like I say, Reading Dining, it is a top floor hold until the last 40 seconds. CrownZero, they've done it once. Can they do it again? The one big thing they've done is they've negated all that use from that Rura Incense. You can see Ghost Army, they don't want to bother with it again. They're going for that Flores, that knock, that Grim this time.
I'm kind of blown away by the fact that Skips manages to clutch that round with such little HP. The difference between that round just being a Ghost Army one and us being on match point here, and what actually happened is marginal. But he is able to do enough. Ooh, bit of a reveal here. Nickit spotted, but he will be aware of it as he manages to take down that drone. And I thought for a moment that we were on the top floor. It turns out no, we're actually on Reading and Dining. The other main floor site, seemingly this first floor being preferred by CrownZero, and as they start their attack to try and send some grenades in to get rid of the pixel shield, they will, and start to force these players back.
Exactly. No kills to start things off just yet, but Ghost Army, they don't need that just right now, because what they need is to get these lines of sight. As you can see here, Ice Cups is going to be in a difficult spot because now they have to deal with that window. They can just back up, they can just wait it, but they need to try and get as much time as possible to really get the benefit out of that position. And with the Flores drones, it's going to make it a lot harder. Trying to clear out Cocktail, allow for Ghost Army to start putting the pressure on, and with the Lion Scan coming down, any roamers trying to rotate, for example, skip side last round, will be picked up. Fleek's able to find the kill, takes down Yashiro. Atox and Skips each get a kill of their own, and now Sinzo has an answer, a 3 versus 3. Very exciting, we're only halfway through the round so far, and a minute 30 left to go with 3 versus 3, I bet.
Close round so far. Still execute utility for Ghost Army. That Grim likely to factor in heavily in QLF, looking for a fight, finding somebody, but not finding any shots. So everyone's still maintaining their life or maintaining their relatively high HP. A little bit of utility tossed out, but that's not really for the execute. The idea there, Senzo just wants to make sure that nobody attempts to lurk up white as they continue to finish their setup, drone these last couple player positions. There's not a soul up on the top floor. They don't need to worry about that. They do need to worry about is getting in towards the site. They've done a great job with their setup. They've cleared out the Goyo canisters, and they just need to get their players in the position and go for it.
Yeah, and they still got that ping over towards that Melusi, but the big problem here is going to be Dipsy with the Vector, not able to find a kill, but does a lot of damage. There's also a Goyo canister right by that door. That's going to mean that a plant at this time, this late stage in the round, isn't going to be possible. The 90 cam gets taken down. Sinzo's position will be given away, and 30 seconds. CrownZero are looking very good. If they can now sneak a player, now that the Grims have ended, they can have a really good opportunity at the flank. Shut that down. That case has not been dropped like you were looking to try and get that to happen, which means that player has had to drop themselves. Dipsy is going to be able to find it down, but is it going to get the kill? Simpson gets one of their own. QLF and Charlie, they bring it back. The flank from the knock up the white stairs. What a way to end that round. And it's going to put them onto match and series point in a round that really should have been CrownZero's.
Oh, what are you kidding me? What was that last kill? He's not aiming. He's got no bullets in his mag, but he's getting a headshot from across the map. Are you joking me? Things just not going CrownZero's away today. I cannot believe my eyes, McCree, but Ghost Army are our first team to hitch match and series point. All they need is one more round to be able to shut this thing down.
Yeah, and one more round as well, I bet, will put them through. And in their record against CrownZero so far in ESA Season X, which is the big season, might I add, undefeated against CrownZero in terms of maps. They have won their first showing against each other 2-0. They're looking to do exactly the same here and push themselves up through that winner's bracket so far and knock CrownZero down. But you've got to remember, there is a chance of a further rematch down the line, no matter how this goes, because whoever loses this series can still bring it back all the way through that lower bracket. It's a double elimination now. So if you are CrownZero and if you do lose this next round, it's not all over just yet. But it's looking close so far, because with one round ticking them off the board, CrownZero, they are on that top floor. This is the preferred site for a lot of teams. And realistically, this is where CrownZero, they need to play a perfect game of Rainbow Six Siege to force overtime. And not only to force overtime, but to then move on to Chalet.
I just can't believe that last round. So I'm still on this because that was all CrownZero all the way. They should have won that. They had the advantageous position. They took down the lurk. They got rid of the player who was going for that backstab, Senzo. So suddenly you have the body balance on your side. And if you're Ghost Army, you don't have an approach, but somehow still CrownZero managed to peek the players, drop the bodies instead of forcing the plant to go down. I think it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what the win condition was and how they should approach it. Comes into play there. Ghost Army managed to capitalize, and here they go. One more attack to try and close it down to only allowed 4 rounds for CrownZero across 2 maps. It will be the top floor. That's the site we see.
Yeah, now Kazuto's going to face a lot of pressure. The silent breach of that window will find Kazuto and find 2 Goyo canisters in Pixel. And now it's, like you said, it's cutting off these rotators, cut off the freedom of movement of the defenders, and they do not have a site to drop down to below. They're not able to just say, right, okay, well, we've done the time waste, we drop below, we wait, we just wait for them to come to us. That's not going to happen here. They're going to need to hold these spots. They're going to need to win these gunfights, and if they are going to die, like Yashiro is, they need to get every single bit of time, utility, and frags for it. Sips and QLF each getting a kill of their own, things starting to heat up as the Cigar side has been taken control of. The Flores drone is going to start doing a lot more no Flores drones. Actually, the drones are going to get the utility, but not push these players off. The air jab goes down, does damage. Dipsy gets taken away, not to find a kill since we've rehosted this side of the map so far. And now Sips and Nickit are here to stop things in the possible last 1 minute of this round.
Skips has been a hero for his team in these last couple of rounds, and he's going to need to go huge here. He's already gotten 2 on the round. He's going to need to find more impact if CrownZero want to continue. Jiggling over towards Pixel, looking through those long angles through the freezer to try and catch someone off guard, but he's missed the cross. Here comes Charlie pushing through Piano, getting his way up to Pixel. The fight's about to come through with a pre-fire. Charlie's not going to walk into it. He's going to reposition. He's going to wait for his teammates because he knows that they've got the utility that they can toss out to blind these players, to be able to remove them, but the C4 to answer. Here comes the vault, the drop from the skylight. QLF will lose his fight, and suddenly it's no one left but Skips. 1v1 between the two, the Zofia and the Frost. 25 seconds on the clock. And Skips is going to need to do this. He's going to have to find it. All the pressure on his shoulders. He's been so good so far. Will he let the plant get down? Yes! Charlie manages to secure it, but as he tries to escape, Skips will manage to take him down, peeking out through the feet holes, and all too easy is it as he goes to secure that plant denial. CrownZero will persist for at least one more.
Yeah, very well played. They've won the top 3 sites in perfect succession, but that was so close because it came down to the 3 versus 2, but then Nickit with the Cade, with the C4, stops that plant from going down, forces the Zofia to drop down. The information coming out on Pixel meant that the Frost was still able to hold that position and just keep an eye on where they were playing the Skips. They realized that they could just wait it out a little bit, play for the information and wait that time out. Very well played from CrownZero, but it was way too close for comfort. It came so close to ending it all there. So now as they head down to Fireplace and Mining, they need to make it work again. Skips has had some massive plays in this second map so far, and we need to see them keep going. But when we look at this scoreline, I need to see the rest of CrownZero start to step things up. Skips 8 kills since the rehost, which was a 5-1 scoreline. Kazuto and Dipsy have yet to find kills in this kind of rehost now in this segment. Nickit and Fleeks, they're kind of drawing behind. It's all on Sips. Skips cannot be the only player that's fragging. If we need to see this win come through, and if we're going to see CrownZero win Chalet, there needs to be a little bit more of a concerted effort from the rest of the team to back up Skips here.
The other side of this, McCready, is it's not just frags that Skips has. He's found 2 clutches already for himself. Out of 3 rounds, his team has won. That's not sustainable. And I mean, obviously, you see the scoreline. But you're so right. The rest of CrownZero needs to wake up. They're not in this game right now. They need to find their way in. And it needs to have happened yesterday. But if you can't have done it yesterday, there's no time like the present. Let's see if they can find it. A couple more rounds here. 3 more to force overtime. Will we see it? We'll see.
Yeah, like you say, moving in slowly, moving in fast, trying to get that information, trying to just catch these players off guard that might be looking to get a little something. And it makes a lot of sense having that lurker down below because remember what happened last time we were towards this site. Skips was in this situation. They were down below. And as a result, they were able to get that win, like you say. With a minute taken off the clock, yeah, they know that QLF is going to be down there, but that's fine because that's information. They know that a player's down there now. And they say, right, okay, we've got that lurker. We know that if they try and rotate down below, they've got that Twitch to deal with, and that is a gunfight. But the constant ping is coming out onto Kazuto, and I'm not a fan of this because all it takes is one floor bank. One floor bank can end that Malusi if they don't rotate, which they have now at least. And this player over the walls, White Stairs, has been given away. The melee comes through when they probably should have just gone for the pre-fire. Etox is going to take a little bit of damage, but does none to Fleek. The C4 does follow, but Yashiro dropping in will find 1 kill. Fleeks has a refrag and takes them down as well. A 4 versus 4, and Fleek still has control on the top floor alongside Skips. Half the rounds tick down. Ghost Army need to start making moves here.
Go could be taken down as well. Good for CrownZero, better than we've seen previously, and whiffing on that kill. Atox needed to be able to find that if he wanted his team to be successful here. Skips a push though, drop it down the hatches, trying to apply pressure onto this defense. Look at this, Skips is persisting. He's feeling confident, continuing to fight these windows. There's 2 players inside a cigar shop who go for the swing, but he's taken down. That's your hero. That's your strongest player so far on this map of Cafe. Now, the onus is on the rest of his team. They need to step up. He stepped up last round. He was able to win it for them. Will the rest of CrownZero be able to find this round, make their mark on this game? Will we see Ghost Army being able to take this 7-3?
Very nice there. Looking through that drone hole, making sure that there was no footsteps that they could drop if they need to, because then that would allow them to cut off the rotates. The verticality is going to start getting done. The pings are coming through. They're going to be able to just spot that Malusi, but they're not able to get the shot. They will now, though. Atox is going to find Kazuto, and Fleeks gets taken down as well. Nickit has had some really strong moments with the TCSG and with the C4, but with only one of those in their pocket so far. 20 seconds ticking down. The blitz closing down. Is it really going to happen? No, it's not. Charlie will close that round down, and Ghost Army will take that round and will take this series so far. They will continue to go up in that upper bracket while knocking CrownZero down. But you've got to remember, after a well-played game from both of these teams, CrownZero still have a really good chance at that lower bracket.
Not over yet for CrownZero, as we do have a double elimination bracket, as you mentioned. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, but heartbreaking for them on both of these maps, really. 7-2, then 7-3, managing to collect 5 rounds total between the two maps. It's not a great showing for them starting things off, but Ghost Army, they are dominant. They're coming into these playoffs as the first seed for a reason. You expect them to be winning, and in this case, it really didn't feel like CrownZero had a chance. The 90% of people on our staff who put in their prediction being Ghost Army, seems like they were right. Ogon, not getting it this time, but what a game it was. Some really great ideas out of Ghost Army. I liked what we saw.
Yeah, I was about to say, on the flip side, though, I've got to agree with Ogon in that regards, because, I mean, there were some good moments from CrownZero. They did start to wake up, and there were moments when they did coordinate as a team. And like you say, a lot of the ideas, just like Ghost Army, they were inspired. They were trying different things. They were not just saying the same thing, banging their head against the wall. I feel like there's a lot to learn from in these games so far. But they'll definitely be more motivated, I think, at the lower bracket after that, because they could have done so much better, and they know it. So going on to these next few games, they're going to try and drive that and keep that innovation. I really want to see more of that. Ghost Army, like you say, though, they will take that as a 2-0 victory. And as we take a look at the bracket, they're going to be joining the likes of Entropy and Molotov Gang in that upper bracket. Who they're going to face, we don't know. It's going to be the winner of MG Minions going up against LDL, if it's still called MG Minions. I'm actually uncertain of that one. They are, right, there we go. That's fine. So tomorrow, Hyber, you see the information right there. You cannot miss it, because that is going to figure out who's going to be going on to the next round of our upper bracket playoffs. And I'm very excited to see how this one's going to turn out.
More action to come. MG Minions, as you mentioned, versus LDL Valor tomorrow at 19:30 Central European Standard Time, CST, CET.
Yes.
Summer times. Either way, we'll see you guys there. I won't personally, but it will be an exciting match. I'll be watching from the sidelines. That's going to be it for us for tonight. I've been Hyver here with my co-caster McCready. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys all very soon.